Well, 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 well. Well,
This is the
well.
water. This is the well.
That would fit.
Drink deep.
That would fit. That would be
think one of my notes
appropriate.
on here somewhere says, I think I'm watching a David Lynch movie. So
That would fit. It would all fit. Kaworu, Asuka, Rei, and Shinji make a cameo appearance in the Edge of the Spider-Verse.
What?
Yeah, apparently. In other media section. I'm trying to figure out, is somebody else named Nagisa? Or is it just Kaworu?
I think Kaworu is the guy.
It's just him that's named Nagisa. Okay.
Right. There's some times where some people refer to like Colonel Nagisa and Captain Nagisa, but I think that's him.
That's all him, right? Yeah.
I think.
Okay. Well. How do I get you to stop making noises? Go to notification settings. Play a sound when any notification arrives. No notifications should have sounds anymore at all. No sounds. Wait, why is there no global setting for turning off the sounds?
I don't know, man.
It looks like he's here. We'll see.
Hello.
Oh,
Hey,
yes.
hey.
It me.
I think we're just going to have to start, and I don't know how to get through all these notes.
Yep.
I actually took notes this time too, so yeah.
I don't know how to get through all these notes.
I'm going to recommend...
It's going to be impossible.
Yeah. We don't attempt to do a play-by-play of what happens in the plot. Because that's the only way we'll be able to talk about.
I can recap the plot pretty shortly.
Okay.
I think.
But there's like stuff I want to say about a lot of scenes in it, so like that's the part where we're going to get bogged down.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think we still move through it because otherwise you just talk about the last hour.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
And you just skip the first half of the movie. Although maybe that's the point. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Okay. Should I say hello from the anti-universe?
Did you make it out?
Did he
Can
make it out?
Perceive the anti-universe even?
Oh yeah, because my LCL makes it so I can see it like a movie set.
Oh, okay. Your mind has shaped
My
it
mind
into...
has reshaped the anti-universe
Into something you can understand.
Absolutely. Yeah. Welcome back to We Were Gamers. In this episode, we were understanding of film up until this week, and now maybe not so much anymore. We were...
I was gonna say we're thrice upon a gamers.
We were moviegoers, but now my life has been changed forever, you guys. I don't know about
upon a time, we are back inside the robot and trying to find meaning, but struggling.
So interesting that he chose Thrice Upon a Time when clearly it's not just thrice that it has happened.
But you could maybe think that, is this the third time it's been depicted, right? There's the original ending, end of Evangelion, and this.
Oh.
Or is there some other meaning to Thrice? I don't know. There certainly could be.
Yeah. Well, I took it as, so welcome back to We Were Gamers. Next week we'll talk about games. Maybe. We'll see how much is left over.
I don't know. Do y'all want to just talk about Dune next week? I like that.
You have enough to say about Dune? I don't know how we're going to get through this.
Probably not, but I wanted to point out I saw that and I liked it. That's all.
Okay. I have not made it to Dune. I was busy this past weekend flying to Kansas City and then driving back with a new animal. Yay.
Sounds like an adventure.
It was an adventure. That was the whole point. So with no Dune time, we're putting off games. We said we were going to do it last week, and we did it. Maybe we did it. Maybe we didn't do it. I don't know. There's really no way to know unless your name is Shinji or Mari. Right? Because everybody else wouldn't know.
Or do they? We don't
Or
know.
do they know? It didn't seem like they knew. Who would know? Who could say?
Who really knows?
I really love and hate that I don't know what happened at the end of Evangelion. Neon Genesis, we should point out. Neon Genesis Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 Thrice Upon a Time.
3.0 plus 1.01.
Wait, what?
Yeah, plus
Yeah.
1.01.
I missed that part.
That
Or
makes
was-
it 4.
What?
That's how they get to the 4th.
No, yeah, 1.01 you said, though.
Yeah.
Why does
So
it
it's
1.01?
4.01.
Yeah, why is it 4.01?
I don't know. That's the title of the movie that we watched.
No. So the one that I'm looking at does not list. Oh, interesting. On the TV app that I have for Prime Video, it is truncated. And the 0.01 is not there. I can see it there, but not here. That's weird. Because the title screen.
The 1.01 is not the same as the 1.0.
What's the difference?
Okay.
It's the 1.01 is supposedly a new version of the movie with corrected cuts. I'm
Oh.
not sure what that refers to, but
Well, the only one available when I look for it on Prime Video is 1.01. So it must be the one I watched.
It
But
is.
I believe that my TV truncates the side of it because Thrice Upon a Time was down below and I did not see the 0.01 part. Weird.
So my understanding, and this has been the case with all of these, we watched 1.11,
Yes.
2.22,
Yes.
3.33,
Right.
and now 3.0 plus 1.01. And those are all the like post theatrical release DVD versions with added scenes, corrected scenes, color changes, potential translation changes, stuff like that.
Nice.
So
makes
that's
sense.
the version that we have watched here. And we don't have any more time to talk about this because we got to talk about this freaking crazy movie, dude.
Okay. So I went back, by the way, and 3.33 had end credit scenes.
Mm-hmm.
None of them were in this film.
Yep, I was going to point that out.
I meant to go back and watch after the fact and then forgot to do it.
So in the scenes, they actually show a spliced version of Unit 2 and Unit 8. Like literally spliced down the middle, and they like play that up as a thing in the preview for this.
Yep, not a thing that happens.
Nope. So I went back and thought that was great. So I just thought I would go tell you guys. I also went back and actually on the plane flight rewatched 3.33 because I felt like I was missing something. And while I wasn't missing anything, I don't think, or we weren't missing anything when we talked about it at the end of that movie, I was glad because some of the stuff that plays out in this film, like I went back when I noticed, I was like, they never say if Toji's dead or not. And then all of a sudden in this one, I'm just going to call it Ava 4 because it's too long.
Well, whose name was it that was on the coat that Shinji got? Because there's that moment where he puts on the coat that's too big for him, and it was either Toji or Kensuke.
It was Toji, and so I wrote that down when I rewatched it. And I was like, "Oh, this is implying Toji's dead. I get it. Okay."
And I think that's what they were going for, is that Shinji thinks that he has killed his friend.
Yeah, exactly. And I wrote up some other stuff down, which is interesting. That the dark moon looks like a chalice, and that the dummy plug system is what's responsible for a lot of this stuff. So we'll get to some Ava 4 here. The recap, by the way, I don't know if you guys watched it or not at the beginning of this one?
I did.
Did it feel like it was played at like 2x speed?
I mean, they had 2.5 hours of movie to get to. They needed to move.
Right, they didn't have any time to be messing
I
around.
was
They had
really
to show us
tired.
stuff.
I was exhausted by the recap.
And then it opens immediately on like high energy.
Oh, dude, what a
stuff.
movie! What a movie! So we open on a containment pillar this time. We're gonna blast through the plot. Containment pillar. Avas have now seemingly become self-reliant, and there are flocks of them out in the world. And
really being used for military applications now, which is
illegal.
Banned before. Yeah,
it's totally illegal. They shouldn't be used. And the what's the name? The Wunder is now being used like a giant marionette machine.
Yeah,
which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mari's new rig is kind of crazy. And they use battleships like a shield, which is great.
Where she uses the Eiffel Tower as a spear is pretty rad, you guys.
Yeah, I wrote a lot of notes during this scene. And I thought it was really cool that they were reactivating, and they don't really explain to you what they're doing during this scene.
No, not at all.
But it's actually like a setup for basically the rest of the part of the movie that is like material, right? Before we get past the material.
Mm-hmm.
They're basically saying they have created these containment pillar anti-L fields for humans to live in, basically where the land is now not red anymore.
They can reverse the corization.
Corification.
Okay, whatever. Yes, sorry.
Yes.
I don't know. There's too many words.
And all the Avas are now being called angels, and they die like angels. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yeah,
they all have crosses. Yeah, all have crosses when they die, and clearly things have gone bad, right? I don't know who's still working for Nerve in order to make all these things. I don't get it.
So from what we saw in, I don't know the answer to this, but from what we saw in 3.33, it kind of looks like it's just Gendo and Fuyutsuki and everything else is somehow automated, right?
Yeah, it really does. So that's kind of like the opening craziness of this film. And it's cool. It was a fun little scene. 15 minutes in, guess what happens, you guys? Shinji opens his eyes in a hospital bed.
Yeah.
Staring at the white
ceiling. Staring at a ceiling. And we get Toji back.
I wrote in all capitals and underlined it, Toji is alive.
Yes. I have the exact same note.
I had 4 exclamation points, but I
was so happy. I was like, yes. Oh my God. Yes.
And my note is immediately followed by and Kinsuke.
Oh yes. Yeah. Kitsune is back.
And class rep.
And class rep. And a whole bunch of people that it's unclear how they survived. It kind of doesn't matter. It's explained as we go on that Credit has been working with Credit with a K.
The literal joke of living on credit was
there. Yep. They literally said the world can only survive on credit.
Yep.
Imagine where this movie was made and think about what he's trying to say. Just, financial.
They didn't really go too deep with their metaphors here, I will say, most of the way through.
I'm you know what? It didn't need to be deep, right? Like the military arm out there in the world has created this lifeline system, and all you have to do is work with credit. And Toji even says later on, like, hey man, I'm not really a doctor. They just sort of give me these machines and I make them work, and like it saves people's lives. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, he's like a volunteer guy, and everyone's calling him sensei, like he's a real doctor, and he's like, yeah, I don't actually have any medical training or anything.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really cool miniature section of the movie where he's definitely saying some societal stuff, right?
I was really happy they had this whole series of scenes here with Toji and Rei and Asuka and Shinji, like seeing what the world is like for actual people. Because we
Yeah.
didn't get any of that in the last movie, and even the movie before that, we barely had it, right?
The only time you saw it, and this kind of actually matters in this discussion now, is in the show, right? Like what we saw in the show. There's some scenes later that they grab some stills from the show. It's pretty clear. JJ, might have been your theory, might have been Michael's. I don't remember whose it was. That the show matters, right? Like, it's yes, we resaw some of it, and I think you find out why we resaw some of it by the end of this. But I don't know. Did you guys want to? We get here a large section of the movie that is living in this town called Village 3, where we find out that Asuka and Ken are kind of living out on their own. Asuka doesn't see.
And they're kind of like a thing, kind of.
Yeah, maybe not, maybe.
There's a lot of not pants wearing going on.
There's a lot of she knows his schedule real well. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And I think she's wearing his jacket a lot. It's pretty clear, maybe, to me. Mm-hmm. She doesn't see herself as part of the human race, and she says, "Oh, I'm here to protect this village, and that's all I'm here for." But everyone else has to participate except for Shinji, who goes and walks on some train tracks again. I don't know if you guys found it more bearable this time. I certainly did.
It certainly was, because there was the alternate plot of Rei learning to interact with humanity and live life and understand like how to plant rice and how to dig for potatoes and all the other stuff.
Yeah, did you like that stirring music montage that accompanied that?
I kind of did, actually. I thought it was nice.
Oh, I was being serious. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I thought it was very nice.
I also wrote in big caps that the first time I saw Pen, I was like, heck yeah, Pen.
Pen's got a little family now.
Yeah, I put that he wasn't the last one, because they make that comment in the second movie.
Yeah.
That he's the last of his kind.
Yeah. There's also some introduction of wanderers here, where the Avas have started wandering around aimlessly. I think there's supposed to be something deeper to that, but I couldn't figure it out, so I wrote it down to ask you guys if you picked up anything.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay.
I picked up that they said it, but I didn't really understand all the way what they meant about all these Avas, other than sort of our theories about like them being people or something, maybe.
Yeah.
Which I think was borne out at the end there.
Right.
But at this point, like, I didn't know.
The reason to talk about this section of the movie is there's two big things that come out of it. One, Shinji overcomes despair, right? He's completely lost to the world until the end of this, as Rei becomes a person, or not Rei becomes a person. He slowly works his way back from despair. And Asuka says something we kind of have known, but did not quite know all the way through, is that the pilots were designed, and so therefore their emotions are their only personality, right?
Yep. And that they're tuned, right?
They're tuned to specific emotions.
Right. So she tells Rei that she was designed to like Shinji.
But she never had a choice, right? It was always going to be like that.
Right.
Yeah. And Asuka only has one way to be. So that left you wondering, right, about Shinji and the other pilots that we had known. There were more pilots in the show, and I wonder if that's supposed to be mentioned here or not.
Were there?
Wasn't Toji a pilot in the show?
Yes, he did eventually become a pilot.
Oh, right. Yeah. For that. Yeah, for a test, right? And then that's the test where the Ava went berserk and he killed him.
Right. So that's kind of interesting. How many pilots do we know of? Because we know Ayanami 2 is number 6. Right? You know Kaworu, you know Shinji, you know Asuka, you know Mari.
In terms of ones we see, that's it.
Yeah, we don't see anymore.
It is implied that Yui was one.
Okay,
right?
so that would be 6.
Gendo's wife.
Okay.
In the show, I feel like they implied that the school was kind of like
was full of pilot candidates.
Right, of candidates.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's removed from the storyline, or only in the previous storyline, that people like that something here pieces together, and I can't quite figure it out, but later they mention some so that's 6 in theory, right? If his mom's a pilot. Let's keep that number in mind for later and move on for now. Except we can't move on before we say that Kaji and Misato had a son. What?
Oh yeah, right. This is actually turns out to be important because it's a thing that actually comes up later. So yeah, we meet Ryoji, the son of Misato and Kaji,
and
out there working.
And then
working
not
the fields,
Ray,
just like his old man.
Not Ray blows up
into a little small cross.
They blew her up. She didn't have a soul, but she was sort of a tiny one.
Did she get blown up? Because
she
what
dies.
I took from that, right? So what I took from that is that she needs her LCL tank to maintain stability, I guess, and that she basically just dissolved back into LCL.
Yep. Very much the same way that Fuyusuki dissolves later in the film when exposed to L.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of interesting there. Shinji and Asuka decide to leave. Asuka blasts him with a taser, which is great.
Oh, sorry. One more quick point. We also learn at this point that Kaji is the one who stopped the third impact.
Oh, yeah.
The real third impact.
Yeah, the actual one that we didn't see.
Yeah, that was in my notes later. So that's in the notes later on the Wonder and what it was built for and all that sort of stuff. Which is actually next in my notes.
Yeah, because that's the next scene.
So the Wunder was stolen and turned into what they called an ark by Kaji.
Right.
To try and save.
Seed vault, basically.
Yeah, basically a seed vault to try and save life on Earth for somewhere else.
Yep.
So anyway, yeah. That's the end of the movie making a direct linear plot. As they decide that Gendo has moved the Black Moon and the HQ of Nerve to the South Pole where the second impact was to create what they think is the fourth impact.
Right. They
being the humans that are left on the Wunder. So they go to attack. They go to an LC field, not an LCL field. They break through that, and they fight their way through an infinity swarm.
Yeah, the Ava Infinities. They talk about them a bunch through here.
Yep. And we run into more Wunder-like ships.
Yeah. There are 4 of them, apparently, and they were all designed as a set.
Yes, they were designed as a set. They couldn't have known that they had been finished. And they end up being 4 because they are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, right?
Okay, so this was something I wanted to ask because I didn't look it up. I should have. Are the names actually the names of the 4 horsemen in German or something?
I don't think so.
Okay, because Wunder is not the real name of that ship, right?
Bube?
The other one, I wrote the names down.
Okay, what were they?
Erbsund with a umlaut over the U. ERBSU umlaut NDE.
Okay.
I gotta find the 4th one. A lot of notes here. Sorry.
Erlosung and Gebet.
There we go.
So in German, Erbsund is the name for original sin.
Right.
Okay.
Gebet?
Yes. It means prayer in German.
Prayer in German. So, no, they're not the 4 horsemen. Okay. But they are they are German words for, more of that non. I don't know what you would call it because it's almost like they're using, Christian motif.
I mean, it's probably related to that Gnostic Christianity.
Yeah,
religion stuff that
exactly.
they've been
Yeah,
into.
the Gnostic version of this is. I mean, they're definitely using them more for the names than I think any direct. I think a lot of this movie, Mr. Ano, or I don't know which one's his first name, Ano or Hideaki. Hideaki.
Hideki? Yeah.
Hideki.
I think you say that. I think Ano. Wait.
I don't remember which one's his.
Anyway.
I'm bad at this. I don't want to get it wrong. Hideki.
I want to say that's his first name.
That's got to be right. Okay. Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be. So Mr. Ano, I believe, uses a lot of this type of stuff to create an atmosphere, but it's not as important as it seemed when we watched the first show. Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that the ship's name means prayer, really. It's cool that the ship's name means prayer. And it's like thought out. But I don't think it leans into meaning anything overall. Boy, okay. There is still some stuff to get through that is plot. Like Asuka goes full angel and pulls one of those things out of her eye.
Oh, yeah. So we finally figure out what was up with that eye patch all along.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, that was hardcore.
Because she's trying to kill Unit 13, but Unit 2 won't let her. And removes that so she could use her AT field to puncture Unit 2's AT field and then kill Unit 13. It doesn't work out so good. And Asuka is absorbed by who she calls the original. She calls her in Japan in the subtitle. She calls her the original Shikanami, right? Or first Shikanami,
which is like her name.
Yeah,
right.
Version.
Right. That version does not have an eye patch, by the way, and looks much more like the one from the show.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in your brain. And then Ikari walks around in the just the open and gets his head blown open. That would be Gendo Ikari.
Right.
And we find out that Gendo has, and this is, I think, where I finally, personally, came to the conclusion that people in this universe, a lot of people in this universe, know way more than we do as the audience.
Oh, yeah.
Because Ikari's head comes off and everyone's just not surprised. And they say, oh, you used the key of Nebuchadnezzar. And like the random people on the bridge of the ship even know what that is, right? And like how many
there was clearly a strategy meeting Misato held at some point in the past that we were not there for.
Yeah. And I don't know, I want to pause here and ask how you feel about that, because it's kind of gonna be the theme going forward that like the explanation is not for you. That like this is not a movie about explaining to you the exactness of what's happening or what is or why it's happening or how it's happening. There's no mechanical explanation for some things other than there's this thing that did that thing. Right?
It is refreshing somewhat in a way because a lot of movies are really just overly concerned with mapping out every single plot detail.
I mean, we live in a MC universe, right? Where the Marvel, this is exactly how he turns into the whole.
Not like intimately foreshadowed for 10 movies, right? So it was nice to see something that didn't do that. But also, maybe this is too far in the other direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this might have been the point, but at some point I definitely started to feel like they had removed a lot of the confusion from the last movie and just replaced it with lots of lore that they don't really explain to you.
Yeah, I think that's actually like a really good salient point because I think certainly the ambiguity of the original series is like part of the mysticism of that show and like why people still like it or are interested in it, right? The especially the ending. It's like it's really ambiguous what's going on there. Here it is not ambiguous at all what is going on. The question is, do you understand any of it? And maybe yes, maybe no, maybe you can piece it together, maybe not.
I think they work in tandem.
Yeah, it's certainly readable that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to read them that way. I don't know. I'm gonna have to. I was gonna get to this at the end, but I think I'm gonna have to start reading interviews with, the creator of this and try to see. Not that he's interviewed and put it out there how it all works, but at least say, yeah, these are connected, or what you're supposed to take away from it is this, or he doesn't actually think this is part of the story anymore. Like what
I
parts we
think
maybe don't know from the outside.
I think you kind of have to wrestle with the fact that there is a lot more to this movie than what is shown and said.
Yeah.
Okay.
It really feels like it's one of those things where because again there was this huge gap of time between the third movie and this movie, tons of stuff happened and was said about what is going on here. And I just sort of think that they assume some level of fan involvement and fan knowledge from outside of the universe before you got here. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing to have done, I think that is how you get to some of these places where they just bring up, oh, he absorbed the key of Nebuchadnezzar, which we haven't heard or said anything about since like
The TV
1.11 or
show.
something.
Key of
show-
Nebuchadnezzar was mentioned one time in one of the movies.
Yeah, it was mentioned once. I remember, but that was it, right? And so, do you remember from two movies ago that came out like 10 plus years ago, right?
Well, and that's the other thing is the large gap between each of these movies allows for a lot to be said about them in the intervening time, as opposed to, a set of movies that's made back to back to back. There's time to discuss and dissect, and for the directors to be like, well, this is what we really meant by this, and this is what happened here. And there's a lot of stuff that has come out in between that doesn't get more than a passing nod in the movie.
Yeah. I think I'm interested enough to maybe start to look into some of that. I don't think I want to go down the rabbit hole of like, well, you need to read this obscure comic, but like, at least maybe I'm sure there are people outside of our knowledge that have tracked some of the like that. Here's the explainer for the middle of this 10 years, and that might be good. Maybe it'll bring some of this info, but I think us interpreting what we've seen here is part of the point, right? Rather than out of universe
Like,
knowledge. I'm glad that we didn't try to
this.
say that again. Sorry.
I was gonna say you wouldn't write a movie like this not intending for people to literally just have these kinds of discussions about the movie. That's
absolutely
yeah,
right.
Yeah, not
this
at
is
all.
the point.
Yeah, the point is what's going to happen here in a minute. I pause for a sec. Who's the pink-haired weirdo?
What?
One of the bridge people from the Wunder showed up last movie, and like it's unexplained who she is, but she is a weirdo.
Oh, the one who tries to shoot Shinji.
The first one who tries to shoot Shinji.
Yeah, I don't think you need to know who she is. I think all you need to know about her is that her parents died, or her whole family died in one of the two third impacts, maybe the near third impact.
It was the
and
near.
she blames Shinji for it, and does not want to abide by everybody else's
I think they even said that initially when they revealed that bridge of the
Yeah.
Wunder
Yeah,
in
They
the third
said a
revealed
movie,
couple of
and she
times.
says like, "Oh, like why are we letting him on board when Shinji shows up? Like he killed
she
my parents or whatever."
she is an excellent foil, and but so is Toji's sister. Both of them give me the same information. And so I was wondering why she was there, but their jobs are very clear. Like their job is supposed to be our job, right? Like if you were not Misato or Ritsuko, you'd be like, I'm done with this. I am so done with this. No, he's not going back in the robot.
Yeah, like
Right?
why are we letting him here instead of killing him now?
Yeah.
What is going on?
I mean,
Misato?
he does a great job at using this character and the other ones, and she just comes off as a weirdo, which is why I said it. But clearly their job is to be like the rest of us being like, no, no more. um, God. Okay, here we go. Uh, Shinji's gonna get back in Unit 1. Mari is gonna take him down there. And she's gonna do it by ripping apart other Ava unit. No, she does that after.
She merges
She
with
that's
9, 10,
after.
11, and 12.
That's after
Yeah,
Shinji's already in.
yeah, that's later.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
But she did rip the arm off of one of the Opfer types that was invading the ship. So the plan they come up with is that clearly Gendo has made a new spear somehow.
2 new spears, right?
Two new spears, which were not the spears that came out of 13.
Right.
It was unclear, but we don't ever see those spears ever again. Because
the implication here is that like once you spear the Ava, the spear is used somehow. And they talk about that later, like, oh, he's used up the spears, he doesn't have any more.
I see.
But they
They
don't ever really
say
explain how or why that is. But they
okay,
definitely
because
say like, oh, he's used the spears.
well, I thought he used them as in they were used uh already known. But Gendo mentions that there are 6 spears
Mm-hmm.
total. And that 4 of the spears were lost, and we have the spears of Cassius and Longinus. So I couldn't figure out which spears he made, or if he made Cassius and Longinus again. But it was that part was like not clear to me at all.
I took it as him using the Black Moon to create another Cassius and Longinus. But
Is that
again, who knows, man?
okay?
Stuff is so like
Yeah.
lightly explained down
So
here.
there are 6 spears, and there were how many pilots?
6.
So that's got to be somewhat important. I couldn't piece together why.
I did like at some point here during his philosophical ramblings, he talks about why all the impacts had to happen.
Yes, that I wrote down. Gendo's monologue is very long, but also kind of important.
Yeah.
He said the second impact to purify the sea, and the third to purify the land, and supposedly the fourth one to purify the souls, and then the cores of the Avas, which then is like explaining, hey, by the way, all these Avas wandering around are people, by the way.
Sort of, right? Like not all of them, not all the people became Avas.
It's like their souls somehow have become these Ava cores.
But when he sends the spear through the hole, all the souls of humanity are released to go out to meet with the infinite Avas. So something about that means like their bodies and their souls are separated or something like that. And so he's talking about how in his monologue there are 2 ways the fourth impact can go, basically, right? Sele's way, which is the angels exterminate humanity, or the original way for Nerve, which was going to be the humans remove the angels.
Yes.
But then there's going to be his way, which is the additional impact, not the fourth impact.
Right.
Where he kills God.
and by doing so gets his wife back somehow.
Where he becomes God then, I assume, basically, right?
Well, I think the idea was that they all become one being, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah. He
dissolves
doesn't he doesn't quote unquote get his wife's body back, but it essentially creates one human consciousness, which reaches back to that first series, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
So yeah, okay. Oh boy.
This is where we show up in the anti-universe.
So we're already in the anti-universe a little bit because we've been talking about it. So while they have decided to use the Wunder's spine to create another spear for Shinji to use to defeat his father, because he'll need one, they think.
Mm-hmm.
We also get the Ava Imaginary.
I didn't think it existed.
The square root of negative Ava.
Just,
Yeah.
I just at the point that you see Black Lilith and he's like, no, it's not Black Lilith, it's Ava Imaginary, and you're like, I don't need to know this. I think I just need to watch this, right? Like that was the first time. Like before this, I was like, oh, the characters know more than we do, but this stuff all makes sense. And then Ava Imaginary happens, and you're kind of like, I think I just need to watch now.
Yeah. So we got an interesting piece of information here, and I was trying to remember if this is the first time that they've said / implied this, but we find out that Misato's father was actually trying to trigger an impact. Was that ever made clear? Because I
No.
feel like in the TV show, he just happened to be working there and the impact happened.
So
I
it's
think
not
it
made
was-
clear in the movies, is it?
They say that.
Yeah, they
No,
say it here.
No, I know.
Around,
Yeah, no, I
before
just
now,
mean
no.
before now.
No.
Yeah, before now it was implied he was working for Nerve, but it wasn't implied that he was like attempting to start an impact. That was news
Yeah.
to me, anyway.
Yeah, same here.
Kind of gives you a whole different perspective on Misato and why she chooses to push her son away and end things the way that she did, right? She says to Shinji before she sends him off, which is kind of interesting, that sons can only either pat their fathers on the shoulder or kill them.
That was pretty stark.
That's
I was like,
okay, but that's
Misato,
also
I think
like a
you're
very-
projecting.
Kaji.
Yeah,
But that's also a very like hero's journey type thing, right?
Sure is.
Where the hero on the hero's journey always ends up confronting their father and either killing him or
Yep.
like bringing him over to his side. Like that's
Mhm.
so, she's not wrong, but also
Yeah, she's not wrong. But she's also kind of wrong. So Cassius and Longinus represent hope and despair, right? And we go through a very pictographic combat that stops being a combat and becomes a conversation. Because
I love
hope.
when I just love at the point when they're fighting with the spears and Gendo's like, this is so pointless. What are we doing here? And Shinji's like, you know what, Dad, you're right. Let's talk. And he's like, finally, let's talk.
Well, it's funny because Gendo essentially ends himself by coming to the conclusion before Shinji, right? But this is the part of the movie I think that most of the show has been about, is that Shinji, during the course of this movie and over the course of the rest of Ava, has learned to accept hope and overcome despair, right?
Mhm.
So he wields hope, but Gendo initially had hope, right? And then gave in to despair. So both of them have got access to both spears, which is why they can't finish the fight.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty cool way to line up two characters that never really interacted very well with each other.
And you finally get to see scenes of Gendo and what Gendo was thinking and wanting this whole time. Like, they've never shown that through the entirety of this series. Like from the very first TV show, Gendo is the dude sitting up on the high platform with the glasses you can't see behind.
I love how artistic the movie becomes at this point, with Gendo changing ages and Shinji changing ages. Their fight takes place in movie sets and other places that they've been before.
It was really cool. The whole thing.
This entire last part just left me like mouth agape. I was just like, "Oh my god, this is where I wrote. I think I'm watching a David Lynch movie somehow."
Yeah, a red room with curtains would have been not out of place. Yeah, so
it was great.
It's a really cool, and there's really not much to explain. Like there's no point in rehashing the conversations overall, because it's a long one. But it essentially comes down to Gendo finally kind of accepting that he can't. He's come to the anti-universe, right? He should be able to find Yui here, and the only thing he can find is Rei and Rei and Rei, and other copies of Rei, right? And he can't accept that he can't find her until he finally accepts that he did wrong by Shinji. He looks up at Shinji and sees who? Yui, right?
Right. He finds her in Shinji.
Right. And he goes, "Oh, there you are." And then he's done and he's gone forever.
And that's where she had been the whole time, and he just had to understand, right?
Right.
There's one great scene before we get to the very end as Misato is delivering the spear to Shinji, where they start playing Joy to the World. I pumped my fist as the scene was playing. I was like, "Oh my god, is this Joy to the World?" Yeah, I was like, a good.
I mean, in my
Misato lets her hair down finally and like goes.
She goes back to her old haircut. Yeah. I wrote down for my 3.33 notes that they played the music from Die Hard in that one. They
Hallelujah Chorus.
Yes, that one. Hallelujah Chorus. That one. I'm sorry, I couldn't remember the name of it at the time. They do some great use of music in these last two movies.
It was just funny because it was clearly Joy to the World, but only because I know the tune of Joy to the World.
Oh, it's like
Japanese.
It's like 18 notes long and then it ends because the ship blows up.
Because the ship blows up, right? Yeah.
Oh man, what a great thing. Gosh. At the time that this is happening, Mari confronts Fuyutsuki, who I wish got a better ending. It's clear that he loved Yui somehow. Was maybe her dad?
Her, like professor, I think.
Professor?
Well, that was from the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. We get that from the TV show.
So then Mari confronts him after, sneaking aboard the ship or whatever, and she gets called Mari Iscariot, which I think was great.
No, Mary. He calls her Mary.
Mary Iscariot. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And so I was like, is she like supposed to be some sort of Judas figure?
Yeah.
She betrays Nerve and all those people, I guess.
But then didn't everyone kind of? So
it's unclear. It's unclear whether she is a clone to me. What do you think?
So I put her and Shinji in one boat and
Kaworu,
Asuka, and Rei in the other.
I agree.
Yep, I think that's the.
And I think she, like Shinji, was recruited.
I don't think Shinji was recruited.
I get the impression that Mari exists in this universe because Shinji created her to be his way out last time.
JJ?
Ooh.
JJ. I wrote that down as well.
I love it when I get it right.
I don't know that you got it right. I didn't write it down the same way you did. I wrote it down at the end with interesting.
I didn't come to that conclusion here. I came to it down at the end.
See, I wrote it down at the end as well in the train station.
Yeah. When I got to the end, I was like, Shinji and Mari are together. They're never really any time. So like, there's what I have to talk about here at the end. They never really express. Mari doesn't get any character development. Really, you never learn anything about her. And so the conclusion I come to as I see them like clearly somewhat happy running away is like, okay, because Shinji was the the god character at multiple points throughout this. He created Mari to be his way out of being the sacrifice alone at the end.
I don't know that I see. So I didn't write down he created Mari, but he found Mari was my takeaway from this.
That could be also
right,
yeah.
because it's we could just get into it here. Gendo is lost in life until what? He finds Yui, right?
Yui.
Mhm.
It is implied here that Kawaru and Asuka and Rei have to keep doing this until Shinji finds his way out. And just like his father, he finds his way out when he finds love. And he can't find love in his mother, Rei, or his infatuation, Asuka, or himself, Kawaru.
Yeah, it
Right.
has to be someone else.
It has to be someone else. Right? So Mari comes and ends the cycle. Great.
And I think
great in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think the ending, like once I finally put that together, I was like, oh, I really liked this movie now. After being very confused for the
I
first
really
half,
like it
and then
too.
just like really kind of like, oh, I like art movies. This is interesting for the second half. And then I got to the end and it was like, oh, I liked this. This was fun,
Yeah. It's very interesting. She has a very long Evangelion fandom entry about her creation and what she's about and all that sort of stuff. So I'll be glad to read all that once we kind of finish this discussion up and I can get into like, oh, what are they saying? What does Ano say about this character? What is, what does the internet say about this character? I don't know. We don't know any of that stuff. So it's just trying to like take what we see, right? And anyway,
I could finally go down the Wikipedia route.
she always very much seems impervious to the storyline. She seems stronger and better than every other character. She's always out, of the way. It's interesting her relationship with Asuka, especially in this movie. Seems kind of almost loving, right? It's like she seems to have
friends, definitely kind of, but
she seems to have that same connection with Kensune. It's like, are they together? I can't tell. Yeah. So Kawaru, Shinji finally takes over, right? He says goodbye to his father. He has his new spear, and now he starts to, quote unquote, save the others. He starts with Kawaru, and I think he starts with Kawaru, right? It's not Rei first. Yeah.
I think it's Kaji first, right? And then Kawaru?
Kaji and Kawaru are at the same time, basically, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they interact.
They interact. He keeps calling him Commander Nagisa, like they knew each other multiple times over, right? So, he keeps saying that, we finally know what the coffins are for.
Oh, wait, hold on. No, Kaji and Kawaru aren't first. Asuka is first.
Asuka's first? Because I wrote it down in the other order, and that would be weird for me.
We see Asuka and her growing up with seeing like young Shinji.
It doesn't matter which order we do it in.
But yeah, you see her, and then it's.
But I thought this was really cool. If we're going to talk about Asuka, how we finally know for sure that Asuka is a Rei, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, first of all, most of the Asukas did not work out.
Woo, that scene was rough.
And we are left with 2 Asukas on the board.
Right at the end.
At the end. How many times have we seen Asuka, right? 2 series. Like the series of movies and the series of show. So interesting. I don't know who she's supposed to be a clone of. Did you either of you catch that? I didn't catch it.
I didn't see them say
I didn't.
To be someone, or if it was just this is what this artificial person looked like.
Okay. Now that we've finished the movies, podcast at wewergamers.com, because we have Asuka Langley Soryu and Asuka Shikanami Langley, which we assume they're both Shikanami clones, right?
That seems to be the
Shikanami series
implication.
clones. Who are they a clone of? That's the big question. Somebody tell us. Or don't, don't tell us. That's fine too. We'll read it on the internet and let you know because I
Hmm.
gotta know a little bit more about this type of stuff. Just because I'm sure it's out there. Somebody has come up
Or,
with a theory and it's worth
or
reading.
like, is it one of the things where they just like don't say?
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe it doesn't matter. That's one of those things that like maybe it just doesn't matter. A lot of this stuff says maybe it just doesn't matter. Maybe just accept it, Uh so then Kawaru gets his due after Asuka gets, he basically he goes through everybody and says, you know, this is the way that you'll be happy and it has nothing to do with me, right? To each person.
But he's also like okay with this. He's
Finally,
like,
thank God.
Yeah.
this is him saying, I don't need you to be here for me. I have this.
Yeah. Um which is great. It's a great turnaround for that character. He finally pays off, right?
Yep. And Ray is last.
Ray,
Well,
so
second to last.
yeah, Koro gets to go off and have a good time with Kaji and not that way. Not in that way.
Or maybe?
No.
I don't know.
Kaji, yeah. So it's implied here that Kaji is left to go, and he says Misato and Kawaru and all them are gonna go farm together. So it's implied that like people are brought back to life here, right?
I think I interpreted that as they have found their peace.
Oh, okay. You think that it's
And
not
that they
literal?
are I took it as that they are going to their rest.
The Great
Okay.
Farm in the Sky.
Well, but we see Kawaru at the end
Well,
with Ray.
that's
Hmm. How much of it are we supposed to read as literal? That's a good question. Maybe that's not even what maybe he only sees it in his mind, right? Maybe they're not really there at the end. Right? We don't see Asuka at the end. It's possible he's just seeing people being happy in his head. Okay, so
I thought all three of them were on the train platform.
Yeah, you see all three of them.
Oh, do you?
And they're all clearly older.
Yeah,
Right.
Ray and Kaworu were talking like in the center, and I think Asuka was off to one side.
Okay, I missed that. They are older and very clearly. So, did you think there's a 14-year time jump so that they were trying to make people not feel as like weirded out by the non-clothes having children?
Can't hurt.
I doubt that was foremost in their mind in terms
That's
of reasons.
Good point. All right, so Ray's last. Ray says that she wants to stay with him, and he says no. The other you was happy going and doing their own thing, and you need to do that too.
Right. 'Cause he finally wants what's best for her rather than what's best for himself.
Right.
That's good growth for Shinji there.
Yep. So Kawaru's coffins and his discussion with Shinji make it very clear what I think was one of our theories, not mine, one of yours early, and then one that I got on board with later, which was this has happened before.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now this might be the last time, it's implied, right? That this cycle might be over because he's
They certainly want you to think that.
Well, he said he's removing Ava's so
Right,
that
a world
everyone
with
can
no Avas.
be happy. So it's implied this is the end. And then he does not stare at a ceiling this time, but instead has his eyes covered, Shinji, by a woman standing behind him, which is on a train platform. And it's Mari, right?
Yep. Echoing the earlier scene where they did this.
It was slightly uncomfortable, but also in this way, weirdly charming. because he responds like an adult, which she says out loud, which I thought was great.
Yes, finally he acts like an adult here.
Yeah. Was it all in his head? Is it all a dream? I don't think so. I don't think that's what they're implying.
No,
Yeah,
I kind of like the implication that the result of Shinji's reset and removal of the Avas is our world.
Yeah, I like that reading. Anyway, that's it.
Whew.
That's it.
He said.
And
That's
so,
the end of it.
Andrew, would
Yeah.
it shock you to learn that they're probably going to make more Ava stuff?
No, please don't do that.
So the stuff I've read has all been saying like, well, maybe we would set it in the 14-year time gap. Though.
Okay, that's fine.
That's different.
That's different than making more Ava stuff.
I just, because the finality here at the end is pretty, or it felt pretty final to me, right? It's like, this is the end of the story. No, past here, there's no story.
Please
right?
don't. Yeah, please don't
And
more.
And so, but this franchise is unbelievably popular and makes an insane amount of money. Like these movies made some of the most money for films opening in Japan like ever.
Yeah.
And so, in the theatrical releases in Japan. And so they're not going to stop making Ava stuff because money, right? So
I don't know.
I suspect it won't be Ano that makes it, though, based on what he has said.
I would
It seems
say
like
he's.
these have taken quite a lot out of the man.
I would assume he's done. There's no way he's going back to that.
I mean, based on what he's been through, I hope he's done. He seems like he has, struggled multiple bouts of depression and horrible suicidal feelings and awful things in the productions of not just these movies, but the original show.
Yeah.
So, let the man rest, please.
Yeah.
I personally, watching this, I think that it's enough.
Oh, I am perfectly happy if they just left it here and never made another piece of Evangelion anything. I'd be fine.
I think it's strong enough to just stand on its own and be done. I know that there's plenty of side stuff. Like, I think there's a Evangelion a couple games or something like that have come out.
Some of those games are quite old, actually.
There's
like
there's manga that we
release of the
mentioned
TV show.
that you mentioned before, manga.
Yep.
So I don't know. I mean, it would be a bummer to kind of like take, because it's animated, it doesn't run the like Star Wars risk of being remade, right? Like, oh, we could do this again and it would look better. We could do it with younger actors, that kind of thing. It's always gonna look like this. I mean, I guess they could do like a live action remake of this.
Oof.
I wouldn't do it. I'm just saying they could. But like, it's very final and it seems contained in so much as it can be. I don't know. My God, please don't. I already feel like I liked this movie quite a lot. I don't know about you guys. Like, way more than I thought. Even in the middle of this, I was gonna like it.
I was worried about how, after the last movie, about how they were going to resolve everything.
Yeah.
And I feel like they did a really good job of, they didn't answer everything, but I
No.
think they did a really good job of like bringing you to a point where the answers that you did get were enough to bring closure.
Yeah, and like I said, during the watching, I didn't know how I felt about it, right? And then when I got to the end and I sort of put it all together, I was like, you know what? I really did like this and I had a good time. It was just one of those, I needed to get to the end of the journey to decide whether I liked it or not.
That's part of the point, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, at some points in the show, especially in this movie sometimes in the first some moments of it are just so unbearable, but you kind of, I think,
Just
come
like
to,
bleak, just awful and painful to watch.
I think some of it comes to being a little bit of auteur uh showing you something, right? Like it's not that way because it's bad. It's that way on purpose. Um More so than we thought, I think. I really think that you're right, Michael. It does not seek even to answer the questions it left hanging. You might have questions, but I think the movie says it doesn't matter.
Yeah, the movie clearly has answers it wants to tell you. Whether you were asking those questions or not isn't important to it. It's here to tell you this story, right? And the end of this story that they tell is great. And I think the especially these four movies like are very watchable compared with the show. But I would hesitate to recommend anyone watch these movies without watching the show. I kind of think you have to see both now. And End of Ava too, even. It's hard to recommend and ask someone to watch, like, what is that, 30 hours of TV or whatever? Less than that, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know. I think you can. I think you can absolutely recommend it. I think you can say there's 30 hours of this, and it's better than a lot of the 30 hours that you could watch elsewhere. I've been thinking about this over the last couple days, especially after rewatching 333 and in the middle of coming to a quite like 4.01, I guess we call it. The amount of prestige TV that is being produced and the hours you would spend watching that stuff is equivalent. And the amount of thinking and artistic license, I guess, and development that comes from this series of show and movies might not be as high of a quality. I don't know what you mean, what we mean by quality, but you know, like prestige TV has a visual quality, and that's not here. But there's a mental quality that maybe is less popcorn generating and more films and movies that people don't see anymore. I really didn't think that's where we were headed, especially in the middle of 333, where it was like, oh, it looks like an art film someone was trying to make, but then it just fell apart in the middle. Obviously, JJ, you're saying 333 suffered a lot of development problems, and maybe that's
And
why.
this movie did too, to be clear. I think the development of both of these movies took like, not quite a George R. R. Martin level, but like approaching those levels of time in between things.
Yeah. But when
And
you get to the payoff of the 30 hours of they're in the place where they're imagining reality so that they can function, and the reality they imagine is first of all a CGI generated environment, which turns into a movie set, which turns into places you like. It was an immeasurably good feeling to be like, oh my gosh, it's all here. Like, even though I'm not getting all my questions, like Michael was saying, answered, my feelings are answered.
And that sort of feels like what Ava has been about really from the beginning, right? That first show really is about the feelings that Shinji has the whole time. And here we sort of get to see it, despite all the other stuff that it was also about. It was about Shinji's feelings, right? Till we get to the end.
Yeah.
So it really was true to itself that way, which was, part of why I think it was so good compared with the third one, which does not center that and is centering on other stuff that's happening.
Yeah. Final thoughts for today. Not final thoughts forever. We can come back to it next week. A little bit.
Gosh, I I think that everything it is like I said, it's so hard to recommend such long pieces of TV to people. But I think, overall, I enjoyed this journey, even though it felt like I was putting myself through some stuff going on it. But I think it's good. I think people should watch this.
I would watch this again. Maybe not soon, but I would watch it again. And I would watch makings of, which I generally don't do because they're in, like, I know how things are made. I don't need to really get into the like, oh, they decided to use this type of light or that type of. It's not that interesting, but this is going to be fascinating if I can find some makings of information.
I think with the things that they left for you to piece together as a viewer, that there's a lot more to be gleaned from a making of in this case than the normal.
Yeah. Yeah. And with that, we leave you to ponder your own human instrumentality.
If you want to send us comments, you can send those to podcast@weweregamers.com. We will certainly love to merge our consciousness with yours there. We are also on social media, the merging of all consciousnesses,
Oh,
at We Were Gamers on
oh
Facebook
no.
and Instagram
Now
and
you've
Twitter
opened a
and all
whole
that.
new can of worms here, man.
Look,
JJ's going too deep.
Yeah, he's
it's
fully
too late. I can't pull me out.
He hit 999.
Yeah, so follow us on all those places. Subscribe to this podcast. Find us on YouTube, please. And that will be great for us and great for you, probably.
I think part of the message is to learn to let go of needing to know the answer, right? What is the key of Nebuchadnezzar? I'm not going to explain it to you. Just let it go. Man,
What a series.
I just can't. I would watch if they did like a creation of Vile thing, if he did it, but like I kind of don't care anymore. Like I wrote that down in my notes for 333 when I rewatched it. I was like, that would be cool, especially in the middle of this movie when they're like, and then we created credit, and you're like, okay, all right, like there's a whole world going on here. I'd watch that, and then by the end of this one, I was like, I'm good, I'm done.
Honestly, you know what? You know what might work better in this case, even though a lot of times it just feels too long, is a director's cut where you just get a few more scenes here and there to fill in some of the holes.
I have a feeling that should be just appended to 333, right? Like, just go from near third impact to maybe a little bit after third impact and get in there with Kaji. Kaji gets an off-screen death and then doesn't come back ever again. Like,
I think that whole Kaji storyline would be very cool as a movie or part of a movie. You know, him playing the spy game and infiltrating Nerve and then sacrificing himself to stop the third impact. Like, there's definitely a movie that you could make there.
An Eva movie called Eva Kaji, which is his entire time working behind the scenes with Asuka and all these people, and because Asuka seems to know a lot about what's going on.
Yeah,
that could work for sure. I would watch that. Yeah. All right. Well, it's over.
Back to games, I guess.
I feel happy that it's over because I feel released from watching things that I don't want to watch now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to watch these, and now that I have watched them, I'm like, I spent 30 hours on this, and I feel like I got something out of it, even though multiple times along the way I didn't know what I was going to get out of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes that feeling happens to me in other shows, and I get to the end and I never get anything out of it. And it's like, why did I watch this?
I think the way I thought of it at the end was that the whole thing, the TV shows plus the movies, are about both the journey and the destination.
Right. And so often, and that's what I was trying to get across when JJ was like, I don't know if you can recommend this. So often it's like, oh man, you got to watch The Boys because every episode is kind of like shocking. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like that show. And it's got that prestige TV. What's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? But it's
Yep.
never about the ending, right? It's always going to be about the journey in each episode and what shocking thing and what's going to happen next with Homelander. And like that's what I was trying to get at is like I'll probably keep watching that one as an example, but if I run into another one of those shows where it's very clear that it's just about the episode journey and there's not going to be the end that pays out, maybe I don't waste the 30, 40, 50 hours, right?
Yeah.
If I weren't 10 seasons into The Walking Dead and and it wasn't ending right now, I would use this to quit because this
Yeah.
would have proved to me that there's something out there that can be better use of your time. But yeah, you're right. On to game next week.
I need to tell you guys about Dread.
Dude, I actually have been playing some games. Although now I'm never going to have time to play games again because there's a puppy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
She adjusting okay?
She's doing good.
Good.
Doing good. You know when you say a weight is lifted, but like I don't mean it negatively today. Right?
Yeah.
I mean it like positive weight. Like I'm really happy we did that, and that also that it's over.
Yeah. Yeah. We've carried this with us around for a while. Now we can set it down.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. Anyway. All right, man.
All right, buddy. Have a good one.